no matter where you live. You know, one of these guys might be ringing your doorbell someday.
Kevin O'Connor was never meant to be on television. He was a high-ranking banker with a 7-figure salary and 0 experience in front of a camera. But one desperate email about wallpaper launched him into the spotlight, and for 20 years he became the heart of this old house. But now, something's changing. Longtime cast members have quietly disappeared. Kevin's gone silent on Bob Vila. And after months of speculation, fans are asking, is Kevin O'Connor stepping away for good?
Giving away.
All right, so what are you thinking here? Beanbags? Plywood?
We're gonna build a couple of cornhole boards.
What he's finally revealing now about the show, the industry, and his future is something no one saw coming. Kevin O'Connor didn't grow up with toys. He grew up with tools. His childhood home in Maplewood, New Jersey wasn't just a house. It was a constant construction site. With 4 brothers and 2 sisters running around and a father who worked as a civil engineer,
I always liked working with my hands.
Kevin's earliest memories weren't about playgrounds or cartoons. They were about hammers, drills, and the sharp smell of fresh lumber. The house never felt finished. And that wasn't a problem. It was the plan. Every wall was a lesson. Every project was part of the curriculum. While other kids were learning multiplication tables, Kevin was learning how to frame a door, hang drywall, and pour concrete. There were no tutorials, no blueprints pinned to the fridge. Just muscle memory, instinct, and the hum of renovation.
What is this stuff? Got a little smell to it.
He learned how to see a structure from the inside out, to understand what made something solid and what made it fall apart. This wasn't some DIY hobby. It was survival in a house that was half built all the time. And even though he had no idea it would one day make him a household name, something from that chaos stayed with him. It taught him not just how to build, but how to think like a builder.
I stayed in touch with him. We still go back and forth via email, you know, I'm introducing him to folks on our show. It's a brilliant idea if you're doing.
That perspective, that hands-on grit, would later make him different from every other glossy, polished television host. Kevin didn't learn construction from a book. He learned it from the dust, the mess, the noise. And somehow, he loved it. At 19, everything changed. Kevin was deep into military training, determined and disciplined, pushing his body past every limit until one day, it just gave out. Without warning, he started blacking out. Not once, not twice, but again and again. He would collapse with no explanation. Doctors ran every test they could think of. Finally, they found the culprit, a heart murmur. It wasn't just a minor issue. It was a red flag that could end any dream of military service.
So much out of the blue that I didn't believe it.
But what happened next made everything even more confusing and unsettling. His medical records vanished, completely. Gone without a trace. One day, they existed. The next day, it was as if nothing had ever happened. No diagnosis, no paper trail, no proof. To this day, no one has explained how or why they disappeared.
If you think of old houses or houses in general, hopefully you think of this old house. So yeah, I think it is fitting. And we've been at it for a long time.
But that strange void in his medical history would haunt him for years. Every time he tried to trace back what happened, he hit a dead end. And with his future in the military off the table, Kevin was forced into a full reset. Whatever plan he had was gone. He needed a new direction, fast. And that's when he turned to education. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't part of any grand strategy. It was survival. A heart that might betray him. Records that didn't exist. Dreams that vanished overnight. So he did what builders do. He started from scratch. Brick by brick, decision by decision. Kevin laid the foundation for a career he didn't even know was waiting.
It would have been an easy answer, which was no. I wasn't even in a high school play.
Kevin didn't grow up dreaming of boardrooms, but life pushed him there. After high school, he enrolled at St. Benedict's Prep in Newark, a tough school known for demanding discipline. It was the kind of place that didn't care about excuses. Then came the College of the Holy Cross, where he studied history, and later, an MBA from Boston University. On paper, it looked like a detour from construction, but Kevin was learning something just as valuable: how to think strategically, how to negotiate, how to lead. And all of it would come crashing together in his unexpected future. His first big move? Fleet Bank Sports Finance Group. While most bankers were buried in spreadsheets, Kevin was helping finance massive sports arenas, the kinds of places that defined skylines and brought cities to life. He wasn't just approving budgets. He was shaping communities. It was still building, just with dollars instead of bricks. That success landed him a powerful role at Bank of America. By his early 30s, Kevin had climbed to senior vice president in commercial real estate. He was managing multi-million-dollar portfolios, closing complex deals, and making deep into six figures a year. His world was corner offices, tailored suits, and high-stakes meetings. To everyone around him, Kevin had made it. He had everything: status, stability, money. But behind all of that, something didn't sit right. It wasn't failure nagging at him. It was nostalgia. The sound of drills, the smell of old timber, the weight of a hammer in his hand. That old Queen Anne Victorian house he bought with his wife in Beverly, Massachusetts, built in 1894, was supposed to be a dream. Instead, it became a full-blown renovation nightmare. Every wall needed work. Every room needed help, especially the wallpaper. Old, crusted, layered, like the decades it had survived. It broke him. And that frustration didn't lead to anger. It led to something else. One impulsive email sent to the producers of a television show he used to watch as a kid. He wasn't chasing a job. He was asking for help. But what he got was a second life. It started with wallpaper. Kevin and his wife, Kathleen, were knee-deep in dust, scraping and sanding their Queen Anne Victorian. And nothing, absolutely nothing, was working. The walls were a disaster. Painted over again and again for more than a century, the wallpaper was fused to the plaster like a second skin. Kevin, once a banker used to closing million-dollar deals, now found himself on his knees, scraping until his fingers bled. Exhausted and out of options, he did what any fan of this old house might dream of doing. He sent an email, not to customer service, not to a handyman, but to the actual producers of this old house, the show he'd grown up admiring. He didn't expect a reply. It was a desperate shot in the dark. But behind the scenes, something remarkable was already in motion. The show's team had just greenlit a new spin-off, Ask This Old House. And they weren't just looking for stories. They were quietly hunting for a fresh face. Kevin didn't know it, but the second he hit send, he entered an invisible audition. When the crew showed up at his house, Kevin thought they were just being generous. But the cameras weren't only focused on the walls. They were focused on him, his questions, his reactions, his energy. What was supposed to be a single television segment about stubborn wallpaper aired on March 6, 2003. Ask This Old House, Season 1, Episode 22. Viewers saw a frustrated homeowner, but the producers saw something else, a host. Kevin wasn't trying to perform. He was just curious, just real. While others grabbed lunch, he peppered Tom Silva with questions. He couldn't stop asking how things worked, why certain tools mattered, what they should have done differently. It wasn't forced. It wasn't polished. It was exactly what millions of viewers at home were wondering, and he was saying it out loud. After the shoot, he asked for a photo with the crew, thinking it was the last time he'd ever see them. It wasn't. 3 weeks later, the phone rang at his desk at Bank of America. He assumed it was another real estate deal. Instead, it was an offer that would change his life. They didn't just want him for a segment. They wanted him to be the face of This Old House. This Old House wasn't just a home improvement show. It was an empire built on reputation. And before Kevin O'Connor, that empire had already been rocked twice. The original host, Bob Vila, was a legend. From 1979 to 1989, he made the show a staple in American homes. But behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. Despite being the face of the series, Vila was earning just $200 per episode in the beginning, barely $800 by the end. Over 10 years and 235 episodes, he earned less than most of the contractors he worked beside. When big brand endorsements came calling, he took them. Nearly $500,000 in deals from Rickle Home Centers, a direct competitor to the show's sponsors, Home Depot and Weyerhaeuser. PBS didn't like that. Vila was told to choose the deals or the show. He chose the money and was fired on the spot. His agent didn't even get a courtesy call. They found out from a press release. Then came Steve Thomas. For 14 years, he anchored the show with calm expertise and even won an Emmy in 1998. But in 2003, just as suddenly, he vanished. No goodbye episode, no tribute, just a vague statement about wanting to travel, sail, and ski. Behind the scenes, it left a void and panic. The producers had already seen what Bad Blood could do. The pressure to find a replacement wasn't just about finding a face. It was about protecting a brand that millions trusted. And here was Kevin, a complete unknown. No reel, no resume, no desire to be on television. But he had something no one else did: authenticity. After just one shoot with the Ask This Old House team, they stopped auditioning the 400 other candidates they'd been considering. They flew Kevin to meet the show's creator, Russell Morash, and the meeting didn't happen in a studio. It happened in a basement, in beach chairs. That's where Morash offered him the job. No contract yet, no legal team, just a quiet, confident statement. In Kevin, we found the perfect mixture of optimism and energy, two things every old house owner must have to survive. Kevin accepted cautiously. He still didn't quit his job at Bank of America. He figured he'd try it for a year and come back to the corporate world if it flopped. What he didn't realize then was that the producers weren't just offering him a gig. They were betting the entire future of this old house on him. Two legends had left an awkward silence. The audience was watching closely. The critics were circling. And now, the next chapter of one of America's most trusted shows rested on the shoulders of a banker with a wrecked kitchen and a lot to prove. Kevin didn't walk into this old house with applause. He walked in with a shovel. On his first day, Richard Trethewey, the show's no-nonsense plumbing and heating expert, didn't shake his hand. He handed him a tool and pointed to a ditch. That was Kevin's real audition. No cue cards, no teleprompters, just a camera rolling and a former banker sweating through his shirt, digging a trench for a sewer line. Richard wasn't being cruel. He was testing him. Anyone can smile for a segment, but could this guy actually keep up? Tom Silva, the show's master carpenter, took the same approach. He didn't tell Kevin to stand off to the side and narrate. He handed him a saw, real wood, real cuts, real risk. Every mistake Kevin made would be caught on camera forever. But Tom wasn't looking for perfection. He was looking for effort. He wanted to know if Kevin would fold under pressure or learn from it. And Kevin learned fast. Off camera, he practiced relentlessly. How to measure precisely, how to hold tools properly, how to move on a job site without slowing the team down. He wasn't just trying to look like a host. He was trying to become one of the crew, and viewers noticed. They didn't see a polished television star. They saw someone who made the same mistakes they made in their own garages. Someone who was curious, humble, and unafraid to look awkward if it meant learning something real. And then, something nobody expected. Just 1 year after joining the show, Kevin was nominated for an Emmy. Not for acting, not for hosting some flashy makeover show, but for Outstanding Service Show Host. The industry had taken notice. This wasn't just a fluke. Kevin O'Connor was the real deal. Critics were stunned. Bob Vila and Steve Thomas had taken years to earn that kind of recognition. Kevin did it in one season. Why? Because he didn't pretend to know everything. He asked questions like a student, not a star. He stood shoulder to shoulder with experts and absorbed everything. He made people care about the process, not just the results. That nomination wasn't just a win for Kevin. It was a message. A new kind of host had arrived, and he wasn't reading from a script. He was living it. For years, Kevin O'Connor kept his head down and let his work speak. But when the cameras weren't rolling, something began to shift. In interviews, when asked about modern home renovation shows, the glossy, fast-paced ones dominating cable, he didn't hold back. He called most of them crap. Not lazy, not shallow, just crap. And he didn't stop there. He said some couldn't hold his attention for a nanosecond, that they were misleading the public with fantasy timelines and unrealistic budgets. Kevin's words hit like a hammer to the industry's polished veneer. Viewers were shocked. Hosts from other networks were furious. But Kevin didn't flinch. This wasn't just about television styles. It was a philosophy war. HGTV had turned home improvement into a formula. Flashy flips, overnight makeovers, drama-packed timelines. But Kevin was still showing people how to properly rewire a socket or pour a footing. He accused cable shows of encouraging waste, promoting shortcuts, and giving homeowners false confidence, the kind that leads to real-life disasters. While others chased ratings with paint jobs and prefab kitchens, Kevin stuck with structure, code, craftsmanship. And that refusal to bend made him a target but also a legend. Yet even as Kevin got bold with his opinions, there was one name he never mentioned: Bob Vila, the original host, the man who started it all, the man who got fired in a blaze of scandal. Not once in over 2 decades has Kevin referenced him. No interviews, no tribute, no commentary, just complete silence. And that silence has been deafening. Why? Some insiders say it's strategic. Kevin knows the industry, knows Vila still has pull, and wants no part of reigniting old grudges. Others think it's personal, a quiet disapproval of the choices Vila made when he put brand deals over public service. Whatever the reason, Kevin's avoidance of Vila's legacy is no accident. He's praised Norm Abram, respected Steve Thomas, even credited contractors by name. But Bob Vila? Nothing, not even when asked directly. That silence has become one of the biggest questions surrounding Kevin's career. Is it loyalty to the brand or something deeper? What's clear is this: Kevin drew a line in the sand. On one side, HGTV and the entertainment-first approach. On the other, PBS and the slow, methodical world of real craftsmanship. Kevin didn't try to please everyone. He chose a side and doubled down on authenticity, even when it wasn't popular. The last few years have felt different. Longtime cast members have quietly disappeared. First, it was Roger Cook, the calm and trusted landscaping expert who'd been with this old house since 1982. In 2020, health issues forced him to step away. There was no big farewell, just a slow fade and a new face, Jen Nawada, introduced with care, as if the producers knew they couldn't shock loyal viewers. Then, in October 2022, the unthinkable happened. Norm Abram, the beating heart of the show, the man who had been there since day one, retired after 43 years. To many, he wasn't just a carpenter. He was the reason they watched. Norm filled in when Kevin had to step away. He taught, guided, anchored. His exit left a hole, not just in the cast, but in the soul of the show. And through all of it, Kevin kept the machine running. Quietly, carefully, like a builder reinforcing the frame before anyone notices it's buckling. He introduced new faces slowly, smooth transitions without making them feel like replacements. The goal wasn't to change the show, it was to protect its DNA. But now, the focus has shifted again, this time onto Kevin himself. He's hosted for more than 20 years. He's guided viewers through over 380 episodes. He's gone from asking beginner questions to digging deep into the philosophy of building. And with that growth came something else: expansion. Kevin launched a podcast, Clear Story, that soared into the top 1% of all streamed content. He co-founded This Old Toolbox, a DIY rental platform that directly connects fans with the tools they see on screen. And when Roku picked up the show, offering a 24/7 streaming channel of This Old House content, Kevin was at the center of it all. Yet the question keeps surfacing: is he preparing to leave? He's earning over $10,000 per episode, with a net worth approaching $8 million. He gives keynote speeches at major expos for tens of thousands of dollars per appearance. He's invested in real estate and stocks, pulling in over $1.5 million a year from private equity plays. This is no longer just about sawdust and socket wrenches. Kevin O'Connor has become a media brand, a construction authority, and a quiet powerhouse in the home improvement space. He doesn't need this old house anymore, and that's what has fans worried. There's no announcement, no confirmation, but longtime viewers can feel the shift. More guest segments, more distributed screen time, a softer, more reflective tone in interviews. It's not that Kevin's leaving tomorrow, but maybe he's preparing the show to live without him. If he is, He's doing it the same way he entered, quietly, humbly, without drama. He came in when the show was in crisis. He built it back stronger. And now, if the rumors are true, he may be setting it up to outlast him. Kevin O'Connor didn't chase this life. He didn't go to Hollywood. He didn't train for television. He was a banker with a heart murmur, a crumbling house, and a desperate email. That's how it started. Not with a spotlight, but with wallpaper. And somehow, he became the voice of the most trusted home show in America. But what made Kevin different wasn't what he knew. It was what he was willing to learn. Viewers didn't see a polished star. They saw a man with questions. A man who got his hands dirty, who didn't pretend to be perfect. And that's why they trusted him. For over 2 decades, Kevin carried the torch of this old house through change, through retirements, through a shifting media landscape. He refused to sell out, refused to fake it, and refused to forget what made the show matter in the first place: craftsmanship, patience, and truth. And now, with millions earned, an empire built, and new ventures rising, the question hangs in the air. Is Kevin preparing to walk away? He hasn't said. He may never say. But the signs are there. And maybe, just maybe, that's his final lesson to us. That true builders don't just create. They know when to step back and let the structure stand on its own.